With AI changing the cybersecurity industry, we need to start to learn to use it so we can stay ahead. In this video, I'm going to show you a free cybersecurity AI project that you can use to beat all of the other candidates out there and land yourself a job. Hi there, my name's AJ, and on this channel we teach all things cybersecurity for beginners, so let's get into it. So in this cybersecurity AI project, what we're going to need is a SIEM, and for that we're going to be using Elastic SIEM. Then we're going to need an endpoint to actually get data into the SIEM itself. I'm going to be using a Windows Server 2025 using AWS, but you can also use a virtual machine and just a free Windows ISO image as well. But I'm going to be using Windows Server 2025, but it really doesn't matter what you decide to use. Then for the AI and workflow automation side, we're going to be using a tool called Tines, which is a new workflow automation tool that security operation centers are incorporating inside their security operations centers to actually try and improve the efficiency of their cybersecurity analysts. So what this project is going to be mimicking then is a SIEM. So if you don't know what a SIEM is, it stands for Security Information Event Management Tool. And it's a tool that all cybersecurity analysts and a lot of cybersecurity professionals will be using on a day-to-day basis. It's a tool that I use every single day. And if you imagine a network, that network has devices. Those devices generate logs. So your servers, laptops, firewalls, for example, will always generate some type of a log. That log is then sent to a SIEM like Elastic, and Elastic has a set of correlation rules or detection rules which are looking for malicious activity in these logs. If it detects that malicious activity, it'll send an alert to you as the analyst, and it'll be up to you then to either escalate it as a possible cyber attack and a possible incident, or then look to close it out as a false positive and try to improve the rule if it isn't deemed to be malicious. So this is the kind of typical way that a cybersecurity professional, a cybersecurity analyst especially, will be working their day job. Usually analyzing these alerts and then trying to discover if they're malicious or if they're not malicious. Now, how the cybersecurity analyst role is changing is that we're moving more into kind of the engineering role, and what we're expected now is to try and learn skills like workflow automation and how to incorporate AI into our workflow. So tools like Tines are being added into this process here to help with the actual alerting, help with actually escalating it as a possible cyber attack or an incident, and even then to try and improve the rule to actually increase the chances that we're detecting malicious activity and reducing the overall false positives. Now, this is what a SIEM is, and this is what we're going to mimic in this project. We're going to be setting up our own Elastic SIEM, and we're going to ingest logs into that SIEM. We're going to generate some alerts, and then we're going to use Tines to actually review that alert and actually send us an email with a summary of what that alert says, all using AI. First up then, we need to set up the endpoint, and as I mentioned, I'm going to be using a Windows Server running on AWS. You need to go and get whichever works for you. If that's something like VirtualBox or VMware Fusion where you're setting up a virtual machine, go ahead and do that now. But what I'm going to be doing is setting up an AWS instance running Windows Server 2025, which I'll show you now. So you'll want to head over to the AWS website and you want to create your account. So I won't show the exact setups here. It's very straightforward, but ultimately you just want to go through, fill in your information. It will ask for a credit card for this, but you can use the free tier for this as well. And you want to just go through and create. Then once you're logged in, you're going to be presented with this screen, and you're going to want to head over and set up your own EC2 instance. So you can head over to EC2, and you're going to want to go into instances on the left. And then you're going to want to go over to launch instances. So you can go into here, launch instances, and then we're going to want to fill this out. So what we're going to do here is just give it a name. So you can say my test Windows server, and then you're going to want to come down here, set up your own Windows base image. So this is asking us what we want. There's different images that we can use here. 2025 is just the one that I go for, but if you want to use 2019, 2022, then you're more than welcome to do that as well. So the instance type then, so the free tier is actually only 1 gigabyte. For this project, I would recommend using at least 4 or 8. Now, if you don't want to pay for this, do go with the lower amount or use a virtual machine instead. But it won't cost you very much if you are deciding to do it this way. So if you go ahead here and use 8 gigabyte of memory, it's just to make sure that everything runs more smoothly. Then you're going to want to set up a new key pair so you can actually connect to the instance. So you want to go create new key pair, give it a name. So you can just give it test 10, create a new key pair, and that's been added. So that file would have been downloaded into our downloads folder, so do keep an eye out for that. Then we're going to want to be able to connect to this instance. So we're going to want to be able to RDP into it. So we can change it from here. It's listed as anywhere, but we can switch this and it'll say to our actual IP address, and you want to make sure that it's set to that rather than anywhere. For the basis of this, I'm not going to show you my IP address, but do switch it to IP address of where it shows here, just to make sure that it is locked down effectively. And then everything else you can leave as the same, and then what you want to do then is just click on launch instance. Then once you click launch instance, what's going to happen then is the instance is going to take a bit of time to get up and running. It'll say that it's initializing and it's starting to do the setup, and eventually then the instance state will say that it's running, and you'll want to then be able to grab the actual password for that. And to do that, then you want to go into here, and then we're going to want to go into security. We're going to want to head over to here, which says security, and then get Windows password. And then you're going to want to upload the file from earlier, which in this case was test10.pme. And then it's going to upload this key file. You're going to decrypt the password. And so this says that I've already done it. So this is an instance that I've already set up. But what will normally happen here is once you click decrypt password, it'll give you the admin credentials and the actual password as well, which you want to keep hold of and keep safe and don't share with anyone, and keep note of that because we're going to use it shortly. So then once your instance is actually set up, you're going to want to be able to connect to it. So you can RDP or remote desktop client that is out there. Where I'm using Mac, so there's something called the Windows app, which used to be called the remote desktop app. And what you can do then is create a new PC. So as we can see here, go add PC. Then you want to grab the IP address, which is the external IP address, as you can see here. You want to add that, and then add this. And then when it says ask when required, you want to add your credentials here. So these are the credentials that we created earlier when we decrypted the password. So the administrator name will, the username will be administrator, but then the password will be whatever password it presented to you in the AWS console. If you're setting this up through a virtual machine, then you're going to already be connected to it, and you're not going to need to RDP in. So if you're doing this through VMware Fusion or VirtualBox, for example, you're not going to need to do this step. This is just the part for AWS. And the reason for that is that we actually want to connect to this instance to be able to set up the Elastic agent on this actual Windows machine, but you can actually do this from your virtual machine if you're deciding to do that way. So now once we've entered the credentials, we can click connect, and we're going to click continue. And what this is going to do is allow us to actually RDP into that Windows server. And as you can see here, we're connected to the Windows server, and we're ready to move on to the next step, which is actually setting up Elastic SIEM. So now you want to head over to Elastic's website, and then you want to start a free trial. Again, similar with AWS, just follow the setup, and you want to make sure that you're selecting the SIEM portion of it to set up the Elastic SIEM. So you'll want to sign up for a free trial. You don't need to enter any credit card information here, but do need to enter some personal information, which I'm not going to show you. But ultimately what you're doing here is just follow it step by step. Every time you see it say Elastic SIEM or SIEM security, you want to make sure you click on this, and then it'll set up a new cloud deployment for you. And then once you've done that, it should present you to a screen that looks like this. And then you have officially set up Elastic SIEM. So you've set up your own security solution. You won't have any data in here yet. This is just the data that I've been working on previously. So this screen will be blank for you, but this is what it should look like. And you should see security in the top left corner. And if you've done that correctly and you've got these menu items on the side, then you've set up Elastic SIEM correctly, and we're ready to move on to the next phase, which is actually installing the Elastic agent on our Windows host. So first of all, then we want to head over to the left hand side where it says assets, and then we want to go to agents, and we want to go to add agent here. And what it's going to do then is going to ask you for a policy. So you can create a new policy, you can name it whatever you like, and then what we can do then is create policy. And then what we can do is allow us to enroll it into the actual Elastic SIEM, or what they call it here is enroll it into the fleet. So what you want to do then is go to Windows or whichever operating system that you've used on your virtual machine or in your Elastic instance, and you want to copy this PowerShell command. You want to copy this PowerShell command, paste it into the terminal here, Give it a couple of minutes, and then eventually it will say Elastic Agent is installed. And then the agent will start sending data to Elastic SIEM, and it will pop up here. So you've got your fleet, your agents, and it will show your Windows host, and it should show it as healthy. That means that it is actually checking in successfully. So now, congratulations, you've not only set up Elastic SIEM, but you're actually now performing monitoring and setting up log ingestion from your host into your Elastic SIEM. So you're actually now beginning to go through the kind of monitoring setup and actually actively monitoring a host. So before we can say that it's fully being monitored, you want to click on your policy. So as you can see here, and then you want to add an integration. So you can see I've already got it here. It's Elastic Defend. Add an integration. You can search for Elastic Defend, and what this is the endpoint monitoring agent, or the EDR, endpoint monitoring detection agent, that Elastic actually offers. Add Elastic Defend, and then it's going to ask for a name, so you can just name it test. You can leave it as traditional endpoints, desktops, virtual machines, and then you can do the complete EDR, endpoint detection and response. So this is an actual endpoint detection and response agent that you're installing here, very similar to what you get with Sentinel-1 and CrowdStrike. So this is even more experience that you can be adding to your resume and your CV. And we haven't even got to the AI and workflow automation part yet either. So you can come in here, add it to your policy. So we can add it to policy 14. Save and continue, and once you do that, then it's going to add that integration, and it's going to successfully start to install this integration onto the host itself. And eventually then, when you come back into your assets area, you're going to see your agents, and it should show up as healthy still. And if you click into your policy, it should show Elastic Defend in here as well. So now what we've just done, to walk you through every step so far, you've set up your own virtual machine, Windows machine. You set up an Elastic SIEM, and then we've actually now ingested log data into Elastic SIEM. And then what we've done then is actually installed a endpoint detection agent, which is now monitoring and providing security monitoring for the host that is connected to our SIEM. So you're starting to build a security operations center from your bedroom at home, and this is the kind of experience that employers are looking for. So I know you all came here for the AI and workflow automation section. Well, that's what we're going to get to next. So now that we've got our log data ingested in here, what we can do next is set up Tines. So Tines, you can also have a free account. So again, what you want to do, head over to Tines, sign up for a free account. Again, this is just step by step. You have to enter some personal information here, or you can even log in with a Gmail account. This is what it should look like for you. What you're going to be able to do then is actually create a new workflow automation. Once you click on that, it's going to create a new workflow automation, and it'll give you this blank canvas now where we can start to build out our workflow automation and begin to connect it with Elastic SIEM. So now what we're going to do is start to build out our own workflow automation. And what we're going to do, you want to first add a webhook. So I've got here the webhook, so you can just drag that over here. Then you're going to want to bring in the AI summarize, and then you're going to want to bring in send an email. So we're also going to want to connect all of these together. So we can connect these together like this, and then connect these together like this. So there we go. You've built your first workflow automation. Well, not quite. There's still some data we need to ingest into it, but ultimately this is how you create a workflow. And now we have to try and test it out and actually send data to it, so it can actually perform the actions that we want it to perform. So now we need to head back over into Elastic SIEM and actually get Elastic and Tines connected together. So what we want to do then is go into stack management and connectors. What you'll see here then is that I've created this, where's this Tines connector here. But what you want to do is create a new connector, and then you can use the webhook send request here, and then you can give it a name. So test Tines webhook. Authentication we can put as no, and then what we can do then is actually go back into Tines, and you'll see in the webhook action we'll want to grab this webhook URL. So this is just telling Elastic where to actually send the data to. So we're sending the data through Elastic to this webhook here, which is ultimately going to perform an action, which we'll get to shortly. So what you want to do is where it says post URL, and then you click save. and there we go. So now we've actually got our webhook connected from Elastic to Tines. So what we're going to do next then to actually try and trigger this webhook, we're going to do it through a SIEM alert. So as I mentioned at the start of the video, the detection rules are looking for malicious activity in the logs. So what we're going to try and do is try and mimic some malicious activity to actually trigger an alert. So what we're going to do is go into detection rules, and what we're going to do is create our own alert here. So we're just going to create a simple alert, which is this one here, which is looking for an admin user who is logged in. So if we go in here, I'll just show you what that looks like. And the custom query is as simple as this. So it's looking for event code 4672, which is the event code in Windows, which is just indicating that a administrative account of equivalent has actually logged on. So now if we head back over here then where we've got the rules, and we're going to want to go into SIEM detection rules and create a new rule. So we can go to custom query, and then we're going to want to put our event code query in here. So all the other settings you can leave the same. Custom query selected, index patterns you can leave as it is, and then what we're going to want to do is add in our event code query here and leave it like this, and then everything else we can leave the same. So continue, give the rule name, test admin rule, description, test admin rule. You can put more detail in here if you want, but we're just testing this out just to make sure that it works. Then we can click continue. You can leave the schedule, so it's running every 5 minutes and it's looking back every 1 minute, and then we can click continue. And what we're going to do here then is actually connect to our webhook. So all you want to do here then is click into webhook, and then what we're looking to do here then is actually define the data that is going to be sent to Tines. So in this case, what I'm going to do is pull out context.rule name and context.rule description. So it's going to send the rule name and the rule description to our Tines webhook. If you're wondering what more data that you potentially want to send in this HTTP request, then you can find these actions in here as well, and you can add as little or as much data as you want in this request that is going to be sent over to Tines. So this is how you want to think about it, that this webhook is going to trigger. When it triggers this alert, it's going to grab this information from the alert, and once it does that, it's going to send it over to our webhook, and I'll explain what our webhook is going to do shortly. And now what we want to do is click create and enable rule, and once we do this then, as we can see here, this is now going to be set up and it's going to enable this SIEM rule. And we can go back into our rules here. So if we go into the rules list, detection rules, as we can see here, we've got our test admin rule here, and it's enabled as well. So now that we've got our rules set up, I'm just going to explain more about what the actual webhook is doing and how we're actually incorporating AI. So that data then that was defined in the body that we saw there is being sent to this webhook. So this webhook then is waiting to listen out for the data that is being posted from Elastic SIEM, which is the alert data that we've defined there, which was the rule description and the rule ID. Then what we've got here then, we've got the workflow that then will summarize the data from that particular webhook. So we can see that our AI prompt, so this is where the AI is finally getting involved. Summarize the following data in one sentence. Provide some next action steps for the analyst to take when reviewing this alert. Format this into bullet points to make it easy to read the email. And then what we're doing then, we're defining this here, which is the webhook action. So you just need to click here, add value, and then it'll allow you to add in the webhook action like you can see there. Hit enter, and then what that's going to do then is add it here, and then you can see then this actually shows the data that's being sent. So as you can see here, it's sending the admin logged in, sending the alert description, so the rule name and the alert description, and then it's sending all of the other data from the post request as well. And then once it does that, then what we're going to be doing is getting it to send an email. So it's sending an email to me, andyempirical.training, and it's going to say there's a new alert, and the body of the email is going to say a new alert has been generated, and then it's going to summarize the webhook data that has been summarized in the previous step. And again, if you want to grab that, you just do add value and then summarize webhook data. So you're always trying to define the previous step in the current step using the parameters that it lists out here. So then once it does this, then we're now ready to test to make sure that this works. So to be able to test it, so like I mentioned, the rule that we've created is to detect if a administrative account or a privileged account is logged in. So what we'll do, we can come to here, we can disconnect from our RDP connection, and then go back in here and reconnect. So if we connect in here, continue, and then this is going to log us in. So there, that should have triggered a login now of event code 4672. We then want to head back over to our Elastic SIEM. So if we go into here, we've got alerts, and as you can see here, then you can see that this rule is firing quite a lot. So it's quite an open rule, but we're just using that just to test it here. And we can see here that this rule is fired. So this is how you would actually work as a cybersecurity professional. You would be analyzing these alerts, and they would come into a SIEM like this, and you would be expected to review the details, try and understand what has actually taken place, whether it's a false positive or actually needs to be investigated. So this is all the alert information here. So this looks like it's correctly fired. So if you remember it in our workflow, what we were looking to do was push this data to the webhook, then get the AI tool to actually summarize it, and then send us an email to say that the alert has been detected and actually summarize that alert so the analyst can actually review it. And you can actually see in here the data is being pushed through. So if you click on events, we can see that the data is being pushed through. You can see here, so this is the initial data that we defined, if you remember the rule name and the description in our post request. So this is where it's showing down here that it's been successful and it's been sent over. And then it'll summarize the data. So again, you can see that down here. It's got the webhook, and then it's got the summarized data in the output here. So it's saying the summary, this alert indicates that an admin has logged into the system. And then it's doing so what we mentioned there was to provide some bullet points for the analyst what actions to take, and that's what we've got listed down here as well. And then the final step then is to send that as an email. So we can see send email action has been successful. So if I check my emails, as we can see here, new alert has been sent to myself, and the new alert, as mentioned, the summary indicates that an admin has logged into the system, review the user's login account, and is providing the next steps here as well. So this is a very simple use case for setting up workflow automations and using AI in a cybersecurity context. But this is a project that can really make you stand out when it comes to job interviews. If you're talking about these types of technologies, you could think about different ways to increase the efficiency of a security operations center. This is what companies are going to want from you. And now from here then, you can continue this project. If you see on the left here, there's a story library. So Elastic actually has many different, they call them stories, but these workflows that are already pre-built. So you can come in here, search Elastic, and you can review a lot of these different workflows. So they can get much more complex. So this one here then is analyzing Elastic alerts, blocking IPs, creating cases, sending Slack messages, for example. So these are the kind of things that you can then look to do. And basically a lot of these processes, such as looking up the IP reputation, for example, blocking it on the firewall, used to be traditionally done by a cybersecurity analyst, but now these workflow automation tools are reducing the need for an analyst to take a lot of these actions or perform more of these kind of manual tasks and be able to kind of automate it out here. So you can get a lot more complex with these workflow automation tools. I'm only just starting to learn a lot of this myself, but this project can really help you stand out. And I think the next place that you want to go into is to start looking into these more complex and detailed workflow automations or stories, as Tynes calls them. And Tynes have actually got there's something that they call a SOC automation capability matrix, and they've built out many of these workflows and automations into different sections about how you can automate different processes in a security operations center. So things such as alert handling. So if we go into here, then it's going to talk us through how you can actually automate certain parts of phishing and phishing reports, looking at domain lists, for example. So they've built out this capability matrix, which are ultimately just different workflows or stories like we've just looked into, to actually help security operations center staff and cybersecurity professionals move towards more automation. So a lot of this that has been done is enrichment, so adding more data to be available for the actual analysts. So this is showing the examples here then, how to actually do geo lookup IPs in bulk, And then if you click on this, then it's actually going to take you to that specific story or workflow, and it's actually going to show you here the different steps that you need to take. This is making this much more simple. Like, there's still a lot that goes into this. It's not completely straightforward, and it can be a bit of a large learning curve, but ultimately you could just import this as I've done here, import it into my tenant, and now I've just got this workflow built out here for me, and now I just need to figure out how to actually ingest data into it and actually get to do what I actually want it to do. So these tools are fantastic, but just to summarize what we have actually done then. So what did you actually learn? So first of all, we've actually learned how to set up a SIEM. So when you're going into an interview, you can talk about, have experience setting up a SIEM at home through Elastic. You know how to actually detect malicious events. So detecting malicious events such as the admin logon, for example, and you can continue that by going into more complex and more detailed detection rules as well. You also installed an endpoint agent, so you actually set up an endpoint agent to perform continuous monitoring and actually to be able to detect potential malicious events. You then learned how to set up a workflow automation, so in Tines story, Tines workflow automation, whatever you want to call it. This is a great skill that security operations centers are asking for these days. And like I said, these are the kind of things that can help you actually stand out. So you then have also integrated Tines with Elastic SIEM. So you've joined these two tools together, which is kind of more engineering compared to the role of a cybersecurity analyst. So there's some great skills that you're learning here. And ultimately then you've actually got an Elastic SIEM alert to send data to Tines. And then you've been able to email out an AI summary. So an AI has actually reviewed that alert data and provided a summary about that malicious behavior. So there's a lot that you can learn from this project. And I want to say thank you for watching. If you do have any questions for me, we do have a free cybersecurity community. There's a link in the description. There's also ability to jump on a call with either myself or one of our careers advisors, where we can give you a one-on-one roadmap towards becoming a cybersecurity professional, and we'll tailor that roadmap to you as well. Join our free community. I'd love to talk through this project with you. It's a very long one, but again, these are the kind of things that can help you stand out when it's going for these new cybersecurity jobs that are asking for these workflow automation and AI skills. So I want to say thank you for watching. You now have a better understanding of a free cybersecurity AI project that you can do right now and get lots of experience for your resume and your CV when it comes to applying for jobs. If you want to know more about what I do as a cybersecurity analyst, go and watch this video next, where I'll show you a day in the life of me as a cybersecurity analyst. I want to say thank you for watching. I'll see you over there.